An AEW wrestler does reportedly have heat backstage. Also, a WWE NXT Superstar has re-signed a contract with the WWE. And on top of that, we now know an AEW wrestler will be taking place. He will be wrestling in AAA for an opportunity to win the Mega Championship, the World Championship in AAA, the one that Kenny Omega just vacated. If you guys want more videos like this, you already know what to do. Go ahead and click that subscribe button, ring the bell, do all of that good stuff, support the show. I would greatly appreciate it. But first, let's talk about Jay Lethal. If you guys didn't know, Jay Lethal is now headed to AAA along with Samurai Del Sol, aka Kalisto. They will be competing for the opportunity to now be crowned the Mega Champion of AAA, which is their World Championship. Now, this is actually really good news for AAA because they are proving that their forbidden door is still open with AEW. A lot of people, obviously they've been paying attention. FTR is the AAA Tag Champions. Kenny Omega was holding the belt. A lot of people were wondering what was next for the Forbidden Door. Now, the Forbidden Door does remain open. And of course, we have seen AAA talent at times show up in AEW as well. So the good news is it looks like the relationship is still strong. People do forget that Jay Lethal is signed to AEW. He is not like on a per appearance deal. It sounds like he signed for multiple years. So this is a instance of him working with AEW. But also going to AAA, which I think this is probably a big help for AAA. I don't know, maybe they asked for some more AEW talent because Kenny Omega was injured. But we did talk about this news the other day, and we didn't know exactly what Kenny Omega would do once he returns from injury. And now Kenny Omega has actually clarified that he will be coming back for the title once he is cleared from injury. So the good news is there seems to be a little bit of continuity here. Whoever does win the AAA Mega Championship, the World Championship for AAA, whoever wins might have a big problem on their back because obviously when Kenny Omega returns, that could be really big. I would love to see Samurai Del Sol actually win the belt as well. I think Kalisto was completely underutilized in WWE. Now that we know he's competing for the title, it's pretty good stuff, man. It's something that excites me. It's something I think that needs to happen, and overall something I think that is good for business in general. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Johnny Gargano. By now, you guys have probably seen the news. Well, maybe you didn't. Maybe I'm bringing you the news for the first time, and if I am, let me know what you guys think. I am I'm lost for words here. Johnny Gargano has reportedly signed a new contract with WWE for 1 week. They've signed him to an extension for 1 week, so this way he can work War Games, but other than that, there is nothing else to be said about Johnny Gargano's future in WWE. And by the looks of it, it sounds like Johnny Gargano is done with the WWE. Just the way that they've been featuring him on TV, obviously being the one to put over Carmelo Hayes. It sounds like Carmelo Hayes and this new 2.0 roster are the ones who are taking over. The new school is taking over, and I think a lot of these guys are either moving up to the main roster or they're moving to AEW. Johnny Gargano's situation is very interesting because obviously he has personal ties to the individuals in AEW, but also at the same time too, Johnny Gargano signing a 1 week extension means that he is not committed long-term to WWE. This also means that WWE hasn't committed long-term to Johnny Gargano. There were rumors at one point that WWE had some very big offers to be made, but they have yet to do that. Fightful came out and reported that Johnny Gargano did sign the 1 week extension. So if you are somebody who is curious on what's happening with this NXT superstar, Johnny Gargano, truth is, he may not be an NXT superstar for much longer, and that's completely fine. But I think at some point we got to start getting to the nitty gritty of it. What is it? Is he going to be in WWE? Is he going to be in AEW? Is he going to go to Impact? Where do you guys want to see Johnny Gargano end up? That's the real question, because me personally, as a fan of Johnny Gargano and NXT, I think Johnny Gargano does not fit with the NXT 2.0 vision, but I sure as hell don't think he fits on the main roster either. But also at the same time too, I don't know if I really want to see Johnny Gargano go to AEW. I almost want to see Johnny Gargano go and become a top guy at Impact Wrestling, but I just don't know how possible that really is. And honestly, there are still so many free agents that have yet to be signed. So yeah, it's kind of a weird situation, but at the end of the day, Johnny Gargano in AEW could be interesting. It's just not something it's not something I'm dying to see right now. And, War Games should be really cool, but I don't think in any way possible the old school NXT team will win the War Games match. So, truth be told, I think this might be the end for Johnny Gargano. All right, guys, and our final story of the day, Melissa Santos, the wife of Brian Cage, has confirmed there was some backstage heat on Brian Cage, and there actually may still be backstage heat on Brian Cage in general. If you guys aren't familiar, Melissa Santos went public on social media basically bashing AEW and their creative decisions to not really put Brian Cage on TV. And this reportedly got Brian Cage in some heat backstage. Now, the real question here is, how does AEW address the backstage heat? Because I think a lot of people tend to overlook this. When there's talks of backstage heat in WWE, sometimes it's noticeable, right? And with AEW, it may not actually be as noticeable. That is something I've kind of learned as time goes on. AEW has been around for over 2 years. You don't hear a lot of issues with backstage drama. You don't hear a lot of issues with backstage heat. Now, who is the one who is angry with Brian Cage? This is something that we don't know. But obviously, Brian Cage hasn't been prominently used on TV, really, for the most part, since he's been in AEW. And just because he's been used on TV doesn't mean he's actually been in anything prominently. And I feel like AEW has kind of dropped the ball a little bit between Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. Obviously, injuries get in the way and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, sometimes things are dropped without explanation. It's a bad thing, but AEW doesn't do it all the time, so we kind of just slap on the wrist. Nonetheless, Brian Cage having backstage heat in AEW is a very interesting thing, because if you guys watch the Ango in the Morning wrestling talk show that I do live every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I talked about Brian Cage maybe being one of the guys that can actually go to WWE at one point. He could potentially be the first AEW wrestler to sign with WWE, and I'm actually not opposed to that. I do think Brian Cage does not fit with AEW as much as he should have, and again, AEW is committed to a certain level of stars, and I just don't think Brian Cage is one of those guys. It's not a knock on AEW. It's just something I've noticed. He's not one of the four pillars. He's not one of these guys that AEW has developed. He is one of those guys that, they brought in. Obviously, he had experience in Impact Wrestling and Lucha Underground and AAA. But for that same exact reason, I think he was just another roster member, another name with a decent following on the internet wrestling community level. And I think that was why they brought him in. And I think as time went on, Brian Cage, honestly, for as good as he is, he does lack in certain areas. I don't think it's a big deal considering AEW is pro wrestling. But ultimately, AEW has not found a spot for Brian Cage to be featured prominently. And I thought that was one of the things that they would have done with Brian Cage, was make him a top guy, Brock Lesnar type stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of reasons for this. I don't know. He's not there right now. He's not really working TV. And, I get it. Injuries and things come up. But Melissa Santos basically admitting that there's backstage heat is something everybody needs to know. All right, guys, if you want more videos, don't forget to go ahead and click the video on the screen. You may have missed my previous videos, and that's okay if you did. Just go ahead and click on it, watch it. Let me know what you guys think. I bring you the daily pro wrestling news and rumors, and I give you my 2 cents on everything that you need to know. Hopefully, I'll see more of you soon. Take care.